Mr. Joe Conigliaro, thank you for visiting with us this evening. You served in the active Marine Corps for 9 years.
I was an active reserve for 9 years. I served in the Marine Corps Reserve for 9 years.
And you entered what year?
1959,
And you served through
68.
1968.
I did 2 tours. My first tour was 6 years. My second tour in the reserve was 3 years. So I did 9 years, total of 9.
So during the Cold War era and certainly the Vietnam era.
During the Vietnam era, that's correct.
How old were you when you enlisted?
I was 19.
And why did you enlist?
I wanted to serve my country, and back then, either you got drafted or you joined. And it just so happened that I favored the Marine Corps, and I had a cousin that went in the Marine Corps that I looked up to, and I just wanted to follow in his footsteps.
Many guys who chose the Marines said they did so because of the extreme challenges. Would that fit your story as well?
I would say absolutely. The day that I graduated from Paris Island, I just can't show the feeling. I wish I could. In my heart, it was just one of the most important days of my life. I really felt like I really accomplished something, and it was just a great feeling.
You arrive at Paris Island, South Carolina for boot camp, and you go through how many weeks of boot camp? Is it
12 weeks,
12 weeks
of Paris Island, and for those 12 weeks, you have no communications other than mail.
No phone calls, no
no
visits
phone
to family
calls,
or
no
friends.
newspaper.
Mhm.
Your whole life for those 12 weeks belongs to the drill instructors.
Huh, yes. Now, you arrive at Paris Island. What you found there, was the experience that you found there, did it match your expectations? Was it what you thought it would be when you arrived? Was it tougher? Was it easier?
I think it was just as tough
Ah,
as I had expected,
okay.
maybe a little tougher. When I first got there, I have to admit, I was afraid. You know, here I am, a 19-year-old kid, leaving my home. You know, all of a sudden there's this guy with 3 stripes getting in my face, yelling and screaming at me, telling me he's my mother, my father. It was quite an experience.
Eye-opening.
Quite an experience, but when I knew I was there, I had no choice. I had to see it through. And when I saw it through, it was such a great feeling.
Now, Joe, you followed up with boot camp and were sent to other schools to learn skills. Can you tell us about that? I know you worked on airplanes.
Yes, I was in the Air Wing. Marine Corps has an Air Wing, and I worked on aircraft, jet aircraft. I was what you call a plane captain, not a captain, but a plane captain. In other words, you're assigned the plane, and your job is to see that that plane is prepared, ready to go, and you assist the pilot on takeoff. When the pilot comes out to take the plane, you take him through the process of checking out the plane, and then you send him up. And then when he comes back, you pretty much bring him back on the flight line, and as soon as the pilot gets out of the aircraft, you secure it, and you get it ready to turn around and go back up again.
So you must have felt a great satisfaction that you were serving your country, that these instruments of war were being used, even during the Cold War and certainly the Vietnam era. They were probably used overseas.
Well, when you're out on that flight line, it's a very exciting and a very tense situation, because you got to really watch what you're doing, because it can be very dangerous.
Sure.
but it's like an adventure.
Right.
It's a great feeling when you have that multi-million-dollar aircraft that's your plane, that you're taking care of, that pilot's in. And when you see that plane take off and you know that pilot's flying that plane and he's safe and he comes back, it's quite an achievement.
And that you contributed to that
That
overall
you
effort.
you contribute to that effort. You make sure that plane is ready for that pilot.
So would you consider that your most rewarding experience during your service period?
Oh, I loved aviation. I loved being out in that flight line, even though it was, you had to watch what you did. I mean, I had seen a few accidents, and it can be dangerous. You have to be very careful. You have to watch for jet blast, and you have to watch for jet intake. So when you're around jet aircraft, you never go in front of them, or you never go in back of them. You're always going under.
Now, Joe, during the first 6 years of your service as a Marine Corps reservist, you could have been sent overseas. We were sort of at peacetime. The Vietnam War wasn't escalated until '64, but I guess that first 6 years, '59 to '63, if Vietnam had broken out a little earlier, if it had escalated maybe a year earlier under John F. Kennedy, you could have been sent over, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was in a fighter squadron, so we worked on FJ Furies, which are the old F-86s, and then we went over to the F-8 Crusader, which was an excellent aircraft. It was called the Top Gun aircraft back in those days.
Now, were the Furies used in the Korean War?
The Furies were used in the Korean War. They were called F-86s. The Air Force called them F-86s. The Marines called them Furies.
I see.
And then we switched over to the F-8 Crusader, which was a supersonic aircraft. It did twice the speed of sound.
I see.
So that's pretty fast aircraft. You're talking like 1,400 miles an hour.
Joe, your military experience, did it serve you well through life when you exited the military, when you finished your service in what, '69? And
I think that experience definitely did me well.
yeah.
It's a good feeling, and it teaches you how to be a better person, and have respect for for God, country. It makes you a better person.
Yes. What advice would you offer any young person that was looking to join the armed forces today? Would you recommend it highly?
Absolutely. I mean, let's face it. Nobody wants to go to war. God forbid. I mean, but on the other hand, this great country we live in wouldn't be here if people didn't go in our military and go to war. So I would say if my son wanted to go into the military, I would say go for it. I think it's great. It's a great experience, and I wouldn't. I want to go back a little bit. My son or daughter would want to go into the military.
Yeah.
I would say definitely go for it.
Right.
It's a great experience, and it's just a feeling that you share with fellow veterans that people didn't serve. They just don't know what it's like to be a veteran unless you are a veteran.
Right. The camaraderie.
The camaraderie.
You're still
That's
very
pretty much.
active with a lot of the guys, and in a sense, you're still serving each other, aren't you?
Yes, I'm a member of the Marine Corps League, and I also am a member of this post, the American Legion,
Yeah.
and I keep active, yes, with the posts and the Marine Corps League.
I think I know the answer to this because I know you, but how deep a role does patriotism play? The role of patriotism play in your choice to serve in the military?
Well, I love my country. I love what it stands for. And every time I see that flag, I just get a chill. And it really hurts me when I see people desecrate that flag. And it hurts a lot of veterans. I mean, I realize that people have rights and they can do, things like that, but veterans take that very seriously.
Joe, some of the students watching this could be termed at-risk students. You've been out to the center where I teach, and youth with trouble and maybe addiction, and coming from backgrounds that maybe aren't the best. What advice or what hope would you give them if a lot of these kids see darkness? They don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, or they don't have the goals or the vision maybe to see themselves out of the situation they find themselves in now. What would you say to them? A man of your experience and what you've been through in the military and all the rest.
Education. Go to school. Do your homework. You'll be a better person, and you'll lead a better life.
So application,
Discipline. Motivation. That's what makes you a better person. Drugs kill you. Drugs are
will rob you of your
it's just
motivation. Take it, yeah.
when you do drugs, you're damaging a beautiful mind.
Yeah.
We all have minds, we all make decisions. Just make the right decisions. And it's people you hang with. I guess I shouldn't say that word. The people that you surround yourself with. Always try to surround yourself with a better element of people. People that don't do things like that.
And didn't you say was it an uncle you looked up to that was in the service?
I had a cousin.
A cousin. So
he was like my big brother, and he was in during the Korean conflict.
And that served you well to admire him and to
Yes,
follow
I
his.
did very much so. He was like kind of like my mentor. And when he came home, and I got to talk to him about his experiences, he's one of the reasons why I joined.
And Joe, we should tell our viewers that at the time of this interview, you are 76 years young and very active with your comrades, with your buddies. And I've met quite a few of them here, and they're very impressive.
We have people here that served in World War II or during World War II. We have people here that were in Iraq.
Yes.
So, we have quite a group.
Joe, we want to thank you for your service and for helping facilitate many of these interviews that our students will be watching. So we thank you.
Well, thank you.